we are the DID babies. I'm Ash from the Dragon System.
And I forgot my own name.
It's fine.
I'm Rune from the Castor System.
Today we're talking about how to come out to family members with DID, which is a stronger subject to deal with.
Yeah, coming out to family, coming out to people that you live with, or to people that you're around all the time, that can be a little bit more difficult than coming out to friends or people that you don't see too often, because they're...
Also coming out to partners.
Oh, yes. This is just gonna be a video of us being awkward, isn't it?
Possibly. But, so coming out to family can be quite hard because they've lived with you their entire life, and especially if they don't fully know what your trauma is, they're going to be like, oh, well, you had an amazing childhood. How can you have this trauma-based disorder?
I had that coming out to my mom because she didn't fully understand how bad my trauma was. She knew that I had gone through some scary stuff, but she didn't know that it was bad enough or that it was repetitive. And it took a lot of time for me to be able to trust and feel safe enough to tell her the whole story. And I still haven't told her some of the things because I don't feel comfortable talking about them, like speaking them out loud. So you don't really have to tell someone the entire trauma in order to be able to like go, hey, I have this.
I haven't come out to my family yet. I'm still working up the courage to come out as a system to my uncle, who's a nurse. And I know that he will most likely support me, and that because he's a nurse, because I've told him some of the things I actually went through while I was still living at home, that I think he will understand, but it's still very hard, and I still haven't worked up the courage to talk to him about it yet. And I will never come out to my parents, my biological parents, because I know for a fact that they will deny everything and they'll just make it worse, and it's not going to be a safe situation if I come out to them. It's not going to be beneficial, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, coming out isn't mandatory. It's not mandatory. You don't have to tell someone that you have DID. Especially if it would be unsafe. Especially if it would cause more harm than good to have them knowing.
I feel like coming out to my uncle will be beneficial because it gives a family member that I can talk to about it. He's a nurse, so if anything ever happens, he can be like, hey, well, she had this disorder. And he's one of the biggest people and the only real family from my blood family that I see. He's the only person I think of as family from my blood family. So I feel like it would be beneficial to come out to him. I just haven't yet. But I'm working up with the facts with him. I've been talking about it with him for the past few weeks, being like, hey, do you know about this disorder? It's really cool. And it's kind of interesting. I feel like I will probably call him to talk about it because he lives farther away. But again, with family, one of the best things you could do would be to come out in public to them, especially with family, because families, they get defensive, they get upset when they hear something like that. They get, in your face, they get rawr. Yeah. This never happened because you had such a great childhood.
Yeah.
Rawr.
Yeah, a lot of times family will default to, okay, so what did I do wrong? And when they think that it's because they did something wrong, they'll get defensive and they'll get upset. And the sadness of thinking that they did something wrong will turn to anger. And so that's why it can be a little bit dangerous to come out to family. So make sure that you are in a safe situation, that you're in a safe place, and you have a safe relationship with your family member before you tell them.
And if your family members are part of the reason you have DID, and part of the trauma, I would recommend just don't come out to them.
Yeah.
Because that will probably cause more pain along the road, and possibly more splits. So just don't do that. But
unless they have genuinely, made a comeback, unless they are genuinely no longer causing trauma.
Yes, then
it depends on the situation.
And especially if they're apologizing for the things that they've done and they've realized they have done bad things, then coming out to them could be beneficial, because you can be like, hey, these things that you have done in the past actually caused some really bad side effects, and you can be like, okay, well, you're doing better, you can help me through this stuff now.
Yeah. Coming out to the person or the people that caused trauma, that can be a very, very touchy subject. That can be a very difficult thing to do. And so always proceed with caution with that. Always make sure that you're safe. That is the number one thing. Always make sure that you are safe to come out.
Yep. Coming out to partners can sometimes be one of the easiest things, but it can also be one of the hardest things. I recently fully came out to my partner. I sat down with him and I told him, and I ended up crying quite a bit while doing it, but he just looked at me and he said that he already kind of knew because of the amount of trauma that I've went through, because he knows about almost all of the trauma that we've gone through. So he understands, he realizes that, yeah, that's gonna happen because of the amount of trauma you went through, and he was like, okay with it. He went, I kind of already knew, I support you and all of you. And then he nicknamed us the Hive Mind, so.
I love that name still.
Yep, he's been making jokes the past little bit about us being the Hive Mind.
Does he know about the channel?
Yes.
Hi.
But coming out to partners might be one that you can come out to in a closed environment, because they already know you, you already probably know how they respond to things, so that can be one that you can judge yourself on where to come out to them. And I would recommend, if they have a bad reaction to systems, and possibly if they're calling you faking or whatever, I would say just don't be with that person anymore.
Yeah.
Because relationships are a come and go thing. If they're not going to deal with you and your system well, just end it there, because it's not going to get any better.
Yeah. That can definitely be a hard thing, especially if they don't understand or if they don't support. It can be hard to say goodbye, but it also wouldn't be healthy not to. It wouldn't be healthy to stay with someone who doesn't believe in the trauma that you've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have gone through trauma, and any type of trauma, even if you don't have alters, going through any type of trauma and having a partner or people around you that don't believe you can be really unhealthy. So make sure that you support yourself and surround yourself with people who love and support you through all of it.
Mm-hmm. Make sure that you are keeping yourself safe, and no matter what, even if you believe that you should be putting others above you, put yourself first.
Yeah.
It's okay to be selfish. Put yourself first. Make sure that you're safe. Make sure that you're happy and healthy. Just be good to yourself.
That's the best thing I've ever heard. It's okay to be selfish.
Yes.
It's okay to be a little bit selfish. It's okay to put yourself first.
Yeah, I went through years of putting everybody above myself, and I've only recently been being selfish. The first time that I had heard that was when I decided to move here. My best friend looked at me and she went, it's time for you to start being selfish.
Yeah. And
stop putting everybody else above yourself. Be selfish. Be alive. And leave. Yeah. And it was the best thing I had ever done.
That's awesome. I feel like I just got slapped. I guess I should start taking care of myself before I start trying to take care of other people, shouldn't I?
Yep.
And
Alright, well, we've been the DID babies. I'm the Dragon System.
And we're the Castor System.